Choosing the best ending to Cyberpunk 2077 is a hotly debated topic amongst the Cyberpunk community. There really is no perfect ending to the game, and each ending has its trade-offs. In this video, we're gonna settle the debate once and for all and decide what is the best ending to Cyberpunk 2077. We'll evaluate every ending and epilogue sequence in Cyberpunk, including some subtle differences that can occur based on previous choices. So buckle up, grab some iced coffee, and let's talk about the ending to Cyberpunk 2077. But before we dive into all that, let me share something with you all real quick. This video is sponsored by Mech Arena. Ever since I was a boy, I dreamed of conquering the world with an army of robots. And while that dream may be unattainable IRL, thanks to Mech Arena, I can finally roleplay as a powerful robot pilot. Mech Arena is a free-to-play, fast-paced sci-fi shooter where you can control a giant badass robot in high-intensity team PvP arena battles. This game is available on Android, iOS, and PC. What I really like about Mech Arena are the customization and build options for your mech. There are dozens of different weapons and paint jobs to fine-tune your robot into a baller battle machine. Plus, there are tons of different mechs to unlock, each with their own set of unique combat abilities geared towards different playstyles. So let me tell you about my 3 favorite mechs in this game. The Juggernaut is a beefy tank of a boy that can soak up tons of damage owing to its special shield ability. This bad boy can take a tremendous amount of punishment and keep on fighting, and thanks to its high energy capacity, it can also equip some of the heaviest weaponry in the game. The only downside is its lack of speed and mobility, which is where the Shadow comes into play. This scout mech is all about stealth and recon, making it perfect for control point matches. It can jam radar and disable enemy target locking with its stealth mode. You won't have a lot of HP though, so be sure to keep moving. Finally, the Paragon is a heavy mech known for its offensive capabilities. It may not be as tanky as the Juggernaut, but it's much more mobile. Use the boost ability to get a short burst of speed to close the distance on enemies or get out of sticky situations. These are just some of the builds and strategies you can use to overcome the competition in Mech Arena. And the best part of all, it's completely free to play. So download Mech Arena right now using my link in the description or scanning the QR code. You'll get $30 worth of bonuses to get you started. We're talking 1 rocket mortar number 6, 1 amateur crate, and 1 skin. So what are you waiting for? Use my link in the description to download Mech Arena right now. Big shout out to Mech Arena for sponsoring this video. When talking about the ending to Cyberpunk 2077, it's important to recognize that there are essentially 2 separate parts to the ending. First, there is the decision you make on the rooftop, which determines your final mission of the game. But then there is potentially a second decision point at Mikoshi after the Atom Smasher fight, which can send you into a different epilogue. So I'm going to tackle these endings by first talking about the various final missions. Then we'll evaluate each epilogue sequence before touching on the path of least resistance and secret endings. Then I'll round out the video by telling you what I think is the best ending to Cyberpunk 2077. So let's start off with what is easily the worst mainline ending to the game, going along with Hanako's plan.
And if you take Arasaka's deal, well, you'll have your own soul on your conscience.
Excluding the path of least resistance, this is the only ending to Cyberpunk 2077 that is unlocked by default. The other 2 major endings require that you complete side quest chains involving Panam and Johnny respectively. After calling Hanako, your first task is to rescue her from Yorinobu's estate in North Oak. Anders Hellman will arrive to pick you up, along with Takamura if you saved him during Search and Destroy. After extracting Hanako and that big booty, you'll arrive at Arasaka Tower and meet the big cheese himself, AI Saburo Arasaka. This is the only ending where you learn firsthand about Saburo's backup copy and his plans to restore himself to power. It's also the only ending where you can speak to Yorinobu Arasaka directly, but I digress. After meeting with the board and revealing Saburo's AI, Yorinobu launches a counterattack. At this point, you need to fight your way to Yorinobu's office, which inevitably brings you into conflict with Atom Smasher. Again, Takamura will fight alongside you if you saved him earlier in the game. Oda will be present as well if you didn't finish him off during the parade. The mission itself is great. I particularly enjoy running and gunning through the tower with Takamura, especially his shit-talking to Adam Smasher during the final fight. The real reason why the devil is the worst ending is because of what happens during the epilogue, but we'll come back to that later in this video. For now, we'll place the devil's ending on the B tier. Let's return to the rooftop and explore our other choices with Johnny.
Gonna try to ask Pan Am for help.
You absolutely sure? No going back on this, you know.
If you completed Pan Am's full questline, you'll unlock the star ending, where V recruits the Aldecaldos' help to infiltrate Arasaka Tower. You'll start by going to the Aldecaldos' camp and hatching a plan to get inside Arasaka. You'll take an ice bath to contact Alt, then the Aldecaldos will show their love and give V a biker jacket. Much like Olive Garden, when you're here, you're family. The game plan is to utilize underground tunnels to evade Arasaka Tower. This involves rolling through a Militech encampment guns blazing with the Basilisk. Overall, this fight is really fun. Eventually, Pan Am, V, and Saul will get inside the tower and fight their way to Mikoshi. This triggers the boss fight with Adam Smasher, who kills Saul right after you open the door. Honestly, I didn't care that much about Saul to begin with, so his death is just whatever. Every mainline ending in Cyberpunk involves some kind of collateral damage, so a few random nomads getting capped doesn't really bother me all that much. In the end, Pan Am will survive, and that's the most important thing. We'll revisit the aftermath of this ending when I talk about the epilogues, but for now, the star is an S tier ending.
You're up, Johnny. I trust you. Take the wheel. Just go easy on us, yeah?
Thanks, V.
The final mainline ending to Cyberpunk involves handing the reins over to Johnny and Rogue. This was the ending I chose on my first playthrough of the game, and I still consider it my favorite ending. But it certainly has some drawbacks, both in terms of the mission and definitely in the epilogue. After popping the pill, Johnny strolls into the afterlife and convinces Rogue to help get inside Arasaka. Johnny contacts Alt to get her digital ass on board with the plan, which involves taking out a satellite to allow Rogue's team to land on the roof of Arasaka Tower. Gameplay-wise, this is my favorite ending mission in Cyberpunk 2077. Every other mission involves infiltrating the tower from below, but in this one, you'll rain down death from above. After your chopper crash lands into Arasaka Tower, you'll fight through a jungle zone. And then you'll use your grav boots to jump to the lower levels before beelining to Mikoshi. Once again, Adam Smasher stands in your way, this time killing Rogue just as you enter the room. But not before she sticks him with a grenade that carves off a portion of his health. Losing Rogue is one of the biggest bummers for this ending. The silver lining is you can pick up her gun, which will stay in your inventory after the ending. So that's pretty cool. Overall, this is still my favorite ending to Cyberpunk 2077, though I wouldn't say it's the best ending in terms of the consequences. Still, we'll place it on the S tier. Depending on which final mission you chose, your life will diverge into a few different paths, each with different end choices. Going with the Aldecaldos or Johnny yields the most similar paths here. After defeating Adam Smasher, V will link into Mikoshi and give access to Alt. Alt will promptly use Soul Killer to split V and Johnny onto separate engrams. If you gave the reins to Johnny, you'll see things from his point of view. But if you went with the Aldecaldos, then Johnny will be sitting across from you. Either way, your final choices here will be the same. Alt explains that while she was able to separate Johnny and V into separate constructs, V will still die because the body has been altered too much and views itself as being owned by Johnny Silverhand, essentially. You'll have to choose either to give V's body to Johnny or have V return to their own body while Johnny crosses the bridge with Alt. If you give your body to Johnny, you'll trigger the Temperance ending. I enjoy this ending a lot because it gives Johnny Silverhand a second chance at life. A redemption arc of sorts where he has the opportunity to make up for the mistakes of the past. Since V would die anyway, perhaps this is the best outcome. Johnny will run a few errands, including buying a guitar for a teenager he was mentoring, paying his final respects to V, and then taking a bus out of Night City and off into the sunset. It's a very poetic ending, but of course, not exactly a happy one for V and V's friends.
Really? You're just gonna avoid me? Of course you would, you fucking coward. Here's a bit of advice for you, Johnny. Enjoy your new lease on life, because it's not gonna last long. I'm serious. Believe me when I say I'm going to find you, you f***ing psychopath, wherever you're hiding.
The end credits feature a lot of upset phone calls from characters like Panam and Judy, so yeah, it's hard to say that this is the best ending, but I still quite like it a lot. If V keeps their own body, however, your path will diverge into one of two separate epilogues, depending on whether you enlisted the Aldecaldos' help or went with Johnny and Rogue. If you chose the Aldecaldos, then you will trigger the Star ending, which shows V and Panam packing up a convoy to leave Night City and crossed over the border to start a new life. Even though V will still die in roughly 6 months' time, this ending sparks a lot of hope and YOLO. The thought of living out your final days in freedom, surrounded by people that care about you. It's a really beautiful ending in that respect, even though it's bittersweet because V still has a terminal condition. The ending is perfect if you are in a romance with Panam. Other romantic engagements like Judy may come with you to leave Night City, but others will not. However, if you went with Johnny and Rogue, but give the body back to V, then you will trigger the Sun ending. In this one, we see that V has become rich in the months after infiltrating Arasaka Tower. You'll wake up in a luxury suite before coughing up blood in the shower. If you romance Judy, she will break up with you here and announce her plans to leave Night City, while other romance options will promise to wait for you or remain ambiguous about their plans. V will take a luxury sky car to the afterlife and meet with Mr. Blue Eyes for a heist job, which involves infiltrating the Crystal Palace Casino in space. It's basically a Hail Mary mission with a high probability of death and a long shot of saving V's life. This ending is more of a downer than the one where you leave Night City with the Aldecaldos. That being said, I'd rather be rich than living out in the boonies with some desert trash. Just kidding. Mostly. The Arasaka epilogue is the worst of the mainline endings. Instead of jacking into Mikoshi, you'll leave with Anders Hellman before waking up in an Arasaka research lab somewhere in orbit. You'll then have to undergo all sorts of experiments, meanwhile getting drip-fed information about how Saburo Arasaka installed his relic into Yorinobu's body and retook control of the Arasaka Corporation. This epilogue sequence drags on for what feels like forever. I honestly feel like this was designed to deliberately torture the player for making a bad choice. V will have nightmares about Johnny, and eventually, V will throw a temper tantrum and demand to speak to Hanako Arasaka. Instead, you'll get a meeting with either Anders Hellman or Takamura if he is still alive. They will inform you that the surgery was ultimately unsuccessful and that V is still dying. But they give you the opportunity to sell your soul to Arasaka and store your engram in Mikoshi. At this point, you can reject their offer and return to Earth, or sign the paperwork and go back into the operating room. If you go with this ending, at least go back to Earth. Don't become corporate property, bro. This is the last of the mainline endings to Cyberpunk 2077, but there are 2 more endings to discuss. The Path of Least Resistance, aka the Seppuku ending, is the lamest and ultimately worst ending in the entire game. Instead of launching the final mission, when V is talking to Johnny on the rooftop, you can decide to just end it all right there. This does save the lives of all of your friends, but it breaks their hearts all the same, as you'll see in the numerous painful phone calls during the end credits. Plus, you won't actually get to play through the end of the game, so overall, this one is a big waste.
And remember, never commit suicide. Everything gonna see all right.
However, there is also a secret ending to the game, which will unlock depending on your relationship with Johnny Silverhand. It involves doing a solo, guns-blazing run straight through the toughest enemies in the game. To unlock this ending, first you'll need to complete Johnny's quest line and choose the correct dialogue options at the end of Chippin' In. Next, when you're waiting on the rooftop with Johnny and you've reached the final decision point, you need to linger on this dialogue screen. After approximately 5 minutes, Johnny will chime in with an alternate plan.
Kinda tough deciding which of your friends get to die, isn't it? Good news is you got this one chum who's already dead. And he'd be honored to join you on a wild suicide run. You, me, and Arasaka Tower. Kinda sounds like a Eurodyne lyric, I know, but trust me, we'll go Nova. I say you grab the hottest iron you can find, stride in the tower's front door, and cut your own path down to the lower levels.
If I gotta die, rather fall into my grave gun in hand and on fire. Not drag anyone down with me.
Huh. You just discovered what it takes to become a legend. Grab your iron. Let's mobilize.
This ending is really badass, but the kicker is you cannot save, and if you die in combat, the game immediately ends and goes straight to credits. Plus, as I mentioned earlier, you'll be fighting max level enemies, so it's pretty tough. I tried playing through this ending last night with my level 30 Ninja Endrunner character, but I kept getting one-shot by these mechs, so I decided to call it a night and save my secret ending run for another day. The secret ending offers the same end choices as the standard Johnny and Rogue ending. Either give the body to Johnny and trigger the Temperance ending, or give the body to V and trigger the ending where V gets rich and goes for the Crystal Palace heist. The one difference about the latter ending is that Rogue will still be alive when you visit the afterlife, which is pretty damn cool.
Hey, Rogue. How's things? Everything in order?
You tell me. Afterlife, all that goes on here, it's your business.
Intrigued to hear what this client has to say.
I would be too. You waits. But before you go off, let's you and me swap.
Why she'd turn over her bar to a terminally ill V, I'll never understand. But overall, the secret ending to Cyberpunk 2077 is pretty badass. So at the end of the day, what is the best ending to Cyberpunk 2077? For my money, I'd say the Star ending, where V leaves Night City with the Aldecaldos, is the best ending to the game. Sure, Saul gets curb stomped by Adam Smasher, but does anybody really care about that? I don't. If you're in a romance with Judy or Pan Am, you get to stay with your lover and live out your final days in peace and freedom. It's probably the best possible scenario for V, given that they're bound to die no matter what. But if I'm being honest, I still prefer the Sun ending, where V gets a baller penthouse suite and lives out her final days in luxury. To me personally, that seems preferable than hanging out with a bunch of dirty hippies in the desert, but that's just me. So there you have it. We've taken a look at every ending in Cyberpunk 2077 and chose the best one. What is your favorite ending to Cyberpunk 2077? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to Big Dan Gaming for more Cyberpunk and RPG videos. Big shout out to all the channel members for supporting my content. Until next time, this has been Big Dan. I should go.